Have you ever wondered if ghosts and spirits truly exist in this world? Have you ever stepped into a house where every wall, every room holds a dark secret? Today, we are going to tell you the story of such an infamous house in Alabama, known as the House Above Hell. This story was posted by user Foxover7706 on Reddit. In this video, I will narrate the story in his own words. This house is located in a remote area of Alabama and looks very mysterious and eerie. It was a long, cold winter night. I was sleeping soundly in my room when suddenly I woke up. I tossed and turned for a while, but sleep seemed to have drifted far away. Everyone else in the house was asleep in their rooms. I quietly got up and went to the bathroom. The houses here are made of wood. The creaking of the wooden floorboards under my feet echoed in the darkness. After finishing in the bathroom, I approached my room, where the light from the room was peeking out from under the door. I turned the knob on my door, but the door didn't open. It felt like someone was standing behind the door. At first, I thought my brother might be playing a prank on me. Instinctively, I looked through the keyhole to see who was blocking the door. I couldn't see anyone in the room. The room was completely empty. I pushed the door again, and this time it creaked open. As soon as I entered, I was petrified, and my breath caught in my throat. In the corner of the room, near the closet, stood a very tall man. He was completely dressed in black, and he had no face. As soon as I looked at him, my eyes widened with terror. It felt like the blood in my veins had turned to ice. I was extremely terrified. Before my eyes, the man suddenly disappeared. As soon as he vanished, I collapsed to my knees and started crying uncontrollably. The family heard my cries and came rushing into my room, and I finally felt a bit safe. To this day, I haven't been able to forget that night. Was it a ghost? Why did it make its presence known to me? I still don't have answers to these questions. The second incident happened to my brother. My brother was sleeping in another room, the smallest room in the house. This room was cold and dark, with damp and decaying walls. There were small vents near the door that hadn't been working since the house was with my aunt. The vent grills were covered with cobwebs, as if no one had been there for years. One night, my brother was suddenly awakened by the sound of knocking and whispering from the vent. The sounds were like someone was speaking in an old, dead language. His eyes opened wide with fear, and he held his breath as he looked at the vent. The sounds continued for a few minutes and then suddenly stopped. Then, he saw two red, glowing eyes staring at him from inside the vent. These eyes looked like those of a wolf, staring intently at my brother. Suddenly, someone called his name from the vent. He lost all courage and closed his eyes, praying that this was just a nightmare. When he opened his eyes again, the eyes had disappeared, and the room was silent once more. He hid under the blanket, trembling for a long time. It was very late, and his heart was still pounding. This kept happening for many nights. Each night, the same knocking and whispering sounds would wake him, and the same red eyes would stare at him. He went through this terrifying experience until we moved to another house. The third incident happened to my mother. This incident took place in the master bedroom of the house. It was nighttime, and we had just moved into the new house. There was a strange silence in everything. My mother suddenly woke up to a faint sound. It was the sound of someone walking on an old wooden floor. When she opened her eyes, she saw a woman standing near her bed. The woman was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, her eyes were empty, and her face was expressionless. My mother felt as if the bed was submerged in water. My mother couldn't even muster the courage to move. Her body felt paralyzed. The woman just stood there, silent and motionless, filling the room with waves of cold and fear. My mother's breath stopped, and she began praying that this was all just a dream. After a while, the woman disappeared, and my mother lay in bed, terrified all night. Another incident happened with my brother in this house. This was a few years ago, when my aunt still lived in the house. It was a time when we accidentally angered the ghost of the house. My brother was playing in the living room. It was night, and the room was dimly lit. While playing, my brother saw a shadowy figure standing in the darkness. Thinking it was our mother, he walked towards it without any concern. But as soon as he looked up, his eyes widened with fear. It was the same woman, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, her face expressionless and her eyes empty. My brother screamed and started crying uncontrollably. He felt like an invisible force was crushing him, pressing down on his chest. He started screaming in fear and pain, calling for our aunt. When my aunt and I reached downstairs, the woman had disappeared, but my brother was trembling. In addition to these incidents, there were many other strange things that happened for which we never found any answers. I don't know if anyone lives in this cursed house right now. If you have a strong heart and the courage to face such terrifying scenes, only then should you cross this threshold. But if the house is currently empty and you get permission from the previous owner or whoever is selling it now, you can visit it. But remember, this journey can leave an indelible mark on your soul. Remember, every story has a lesson. And the lesson of the house above hell is that sometimes, it's better to leave certain doors closed. Thank you for listening to our story. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let us know in the comments which part of the story scared you the most.